I'm Sheridan Sanford, and this is my full sentence outline. And today I'm going to talk about minimum wage. Minimum wage is the lowest wage permitted by law or by special agreement, defined by Google. Today I'm informing my audience on minimum wage. This relates to my audience because we are working college students who get probably paid the minimum wage or even a little higher than the minimum wage. I've been researching this topic for weeks, which makes me very informed on this topic. First, I'm going to talk about the start of minimum wage. Second, I'm going to talk about minimum wage overall. And lastly, I'm going to talk about minimum wage and the effects it has on our economy. First, I'm going to talk about minimum wage and its history. According to the Minimum Wage in America, a Timeline article, Congress passed the Fair Labor Standards Act in 1938 under President Roosevelt. When the Fair Labor Standards Act was passed, the minimum wage was set at 25 cents an hour. Since the first minimum wage was set, 12 different presidents have changed it 22 times. In 1912, Massachusetts was the first state to enact the official minimum wage law. The start of the minimum wage legislation was a harder start than expected. As stated in why was minimum wage first established, the minimum wage was conceived as a way to help bolster wage workers and decrease class stratification. Second, I'm going to talk about minimum wage overall. Patrick Kiger wrote, "The federal minimum applies to the U.S. workers who are employed by companies with revenues of at least $500,000, plus workers in hospitals, nursing homes, schools, government agencies, and those who are involved in interstate commerce in their jobs," as stated in the Minimum Wage Timeline article. That is around 3.6 million Americans who earn minimum wage, which is said by the Everything You Need to Know About Minimum Wage article. Some workers can even earn below the minimum wage. The most common exception to that are tipped workers. But most of the time, the employers overestimate how much the employees get tipped. Some states have a higher minimum wage laws due to the higher price of living in those states being higher than the rest of the United States. Right now, the average minimum wage is $7.25 according to Google. Lastly, I'm going to talk about the effects minimum wage has on our economy. According to the classical economic theory, it suggests that the minimum wage would have a stabilizing effect on the economy. The minimum wage gives a boost to the economy. It produces productivity. It reduces income equality. It spurs economic growth and promotes self-improvement. Minimum wage cons consist of an increase in labor costs, increase in outsourcing, possibility of an increase in poverty and unemployment, and increase of cost of living. This information was provided by Minimum Wage with its purpose, pros, cons, and history. This shows that there are benefits to having minimum wage and some takeaways also. In conclusion, I have informed my audience on minimum wage. I've first explained the start of minimum wage and its history. Then I explained the concept of minimum wage overall. And finally, I explained the effects of minimum wage on our economy. You are now informed on the topic of minimum wage and what it entails. The minimum wage applies to us college students because most of us are earning the minimum wage or even a little bit higher. This is why you should be informed on the minimum wage law.